Hello, welcome to Prime Lenses. I'm Ian. This week, my guest is Kevin Fickling. He's an American photographer, producer, and craftsman who wears many hats. In fact, when we spoke, I think he was wearing a Kodak trucker style hat. This conversation's great because it covers how he got into stills photography by way of video photography, some lenses that he's shared with the world that are now being used in big name productions, and we even treat ourselves to enjoying the shutter sound of one of his favourite cameras. It's a real treat to sit down with someone who has really broad creative ideas, is thinking iteratively about what they're working on, and is bringing really new ways of seeing to work with big name clients. I think it pays off in his imagery, and I think you'll really enjoy this lovely chat, which hopefully is the first of many. Here's Kevin. And I tend to just start a bit like Mark Maron, which now that he doesn't do it anymore, I feel like I can steal wholesale.
Definitely.
So you've been on the road then for the last couple of, you've had the Hector release, you've been doing, are you involved in SL things as well?
I'm not involved with anything like a camera at all. They don't give me anything, involve me in anything. Um, the lights, the Cine Hectors were my first kind of collaboration. But Light Cine is a completely different company than Leica Camera.
Yeah.
So I have friends there, of course, but everything you see me review is all purchased with my own money. The Hectors, I did get to keep three of them after the video, but other than that, everything you see is purchased with my own money.
Well, I talked to Sean about the Hectors, which was really fun because if you make a show that ostensibly is about lenses, you should probably talk to people when they make new lenses.
Yeah.
And they seem like a really interesting thing because as you use them for, they're great for video, which is what they were made for, but they seem like really, really interesting sort of stills photography lenses as well.
Yes, I would say, yeah, it's definitely a 50-50 mix with those. And that's why I like them so much, and they're very versatile. But my whole thing was, Light Cine is known for their cinema lenses, and they're known in the Hollywood world. They don't need me, no offense. I don't have anything I'm going to do that's going to be better than Brett Curry or any of these other guys that I knew that were doing, what Gajan was doing and stuff, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to focus more on using them for stills because that's actually how I kind of got on Light Cine's radar in the first place, is that I made a video about the 66 Hugo, but I didn't show a single clip of video. It was all stills. And that video did really well and sold a lot of lenses, and many Hollywood directors reached out. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but Devil Wears Prada 2 is going to be using the Hugo 66 kind of directly from my video, as seeing, some of the images, and they wanted to basically get those lenses on the show. So I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. I don't know if I will or not, but yeah. Yeah, they told me that a lot of Hollywood directors watch my videos and things like that. That was pretty shocking to me, but also really cool. And the point that Light Cine made to me was, in when you're showing something in motion, of course you can get an idea of the rendering, but stills in a way capture the rendering and allow you to study it a bit more than if it's shown in motion. So they really liked that, and I think a lot of people did as well. And the other aspect of that was, showing people that, hey, just because a lens says Cine on it does not mean we can't bring that into still photography. And I think that, as amazing as Leica camera's lenses are, I think there's a whole nother world of glass out there. That of course the cinema stuff is much more premium. But my point was, hey, if you have a job that calls for it, rent it. There's no reason you don't need to buy this stuff, right? Um, so that's what I did. I rented that lens and tried it out, and it was incredible. So I'm trying to bring a bit of in my work. I always try to find something to differentiate myself and my knowledge of lenses, and using lenses and equipment in environments that they normally wouldn't be used. Has I've seen direct kind of feedback from that has proven to me that that gear does matter when it's used, to kind of create a unique image or something like that, right? So yeah, that's where I'm just obsessed with optics. I'm obsessed with creating unique looks and images. And like my friend Gajan says, lenses are like paintbrushes. So one is not better than the other. It's just you want to pick the paintbrush, the medium that works best for the image you're trying to create, right? So that's kind of, yeah. And then I just got obsessed with these crazy cinema lenses, and I'll have a lot more videos coming soon, kind of talking about that. But yeah, I'm just starting to kind of dive into that, and yeah, it's amazing.
Well, that leads nicely onto something I did want to ask you about actually, which was that you've stated kind of a reason repeatedly in your videos and things for using certain lenses, and like why approach something. When people have said to you, why approach something like sport photography with medium format or with a rangefinder, a
Yes.
manual rangefinder or something like that. And I'm with you that the thing you use has an impact on the way you make, and that can be a good thing. It's not a limiting thing. It can be an active choice. I'm choosing to take more in and do this in a more thoughtful way. Was that the starting point for you creatively when you first got a camera in your hands, that you had an opinion about what you were making, and was that part of the motivator?
Well, the way I got started in all this actually was when I was younger. I was really into bicycles. I still am, and I just was wanted to make videos of my friends riding their bikes. So I was making like kind of like skateboard style edits of like BMX riding and stuff. And I got really into it. But yeah, I don't know, just kind of stopped doing it for a while for whatever reason. And what started me back in the photography journey was a business that I had started. I wanted to take nice product photography. I wanted a certain aesthetic to my photos, but I couldn't afford a photographer, honestly. And I was like, you know what? I really enjoy doing that. Like, let me pick up, I think I picked up Sony A6000, might have been my first camera again. And yeah, it was instantly hooked on that and lighting and just learning so many things. So that's kind of how the journey restarted again. And luckily or unluckily, there was a camera store walking distance from my house. And I really appreciate mechanical things. The company that I was mentioning was actually building custom bicycles. Um, so I've always loved making things. I appreciate fine quality things. And I always saw the Leicas in there, and I finally picked up an M3, and I was just like, what is this? It's amazing. Just the feel of it, the solid brass. Um, yeah, and I knew eventually I wanted to own one, and just kind of, yeah, I first got a Leica lens, put it on the Sony, and then eventually a Leica body, and just kind of that's how I found my love for optics in a ways, because when I got that first Leica lens, I really saw something special with it, and that it could create a unique look. But at that time, it was nothing professional. It was just, even as a highly amateur at the time, I noticed a big difference in the optical quality of the glass and how that could affect the way the photo felt. So yeah, that's kind of how I found my love for it.
And did you find after using those sorts of cameras and those sorts of shoots that people were seeing it was different?
Yeah, so I have a great example. So I own a production company, and I produce a lot of content for Shimano. They're the world's biggest bicycle component manufacturer, the biggest by dollar bicycle company in the world. So I produce a lot of content for them, shoot a lot for them. But in a particular shoot, they were launching a new set of components. It was a really big deal. It was the first time in this new segment of the market. And yeah, I was tasked with capturing all the stills for it. And I hired two incredible photographers to shoot. I was more producing. And so because I knew that they were going to get all the photos that I needed, and I was more there in a producing role, I only brought my GFX and a .95 Noctilux on a Leica, but I actually ended up only shooting the medium format camera really. And I only shot with the 110 f2. And this was at the time before that, I think I was still on the GFX 50, like the first one. So the autofocus wasn't the greatest, like tracking subjects. But I'm like, hey, since these photos don't really matter necessarily, like I'm just going to shoot more risky. So I shot only wide open with the 110. And it really just creates such amazing 3D pop, right? And so, anyways, all our photos went into a big group dump basically. So no one knew who took the photos. The creative directors made the catalog, and I opened the catalog up. I had no influence in that. Every single photo was mine from the GFX. And I was like, and I go, wow, like out of curiosity, why'd you pick these photos? Not telling them that it was mine, right? And they just said, I don't know, it just has like a certain special look to it, like a pop. It just seems three-dimensional. The parts really come off the page. And I'm just like, okay, that validated right there why using certain gear sometimes um, can be, to your advantage and make you separate. Because these guys were shooting on top of the line Canons. They had all their amazing stuff, which is great gear. But yeah, the Fuji just, I guess I got lucky, and the photos really, yeah, they just popped and had a nice look to them.
Well, I will say to you that what supportive friends say to me when I say I'm lucky, which is also that an element of it is the harder you work, the luckier you get. And so I think an element of this as well, it seems to me, is that you were at play as well,
Yeah,
and the pressure was off. And I find these conversations work better when I don't put too much pressure on myself ahead of time and I let it go where it's going to go rather than rigidly sticking to the rules. And I think what you're describing there is that feeling that we all have when we're photographing from time to time,
definitely.
where you pick up the thing and it could have been almost any camera on the day, but it inspired you. You clearly enjoyed really using it and just lent into getting the images you got. And then look at what happens. Also, people see something different.
Yeah, for sure.
This is why this age of AI bullshit that we're currently going through is it's not going to make new
Yeah.
things. It might make perfectly serviceable copies or facsimiles of what we had before, but it's not going to make the new. The new is going to come from some dude crawling on his front going, hang on, I'm going to get down really low with this stupid medium format
Yeah,
camera.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's yeah, so I mean that was kind of my first experience directly getting feedback from someone that was completely unbiased. That I mean, I don't know, to be honest, before that I was like, I see the difference, but do other people really see it, you know? And yeah, the same kind of when I shoot with the Leica Noctilux, you know, if I get a really nice shot with that, I truly think it's such I don't think there's a more distinguishable lens that has a look than that one. When I see a properly executed photo from a Noctilux, you know, you can tell right away what it is. So yeah, it's but sometimes that's not the look you're going for, you know. So
Hmm.
it's just all about again, all about deciding how you kind of envision you want your final imagery to look and then choosing the right tool for that.
Oh yeah, and I think if listeners go and have a look at your Shimano stuff as well, like the thing I really appreciate as a very keen cyclist as well, like I've cycled a lot in my life, I had many Shimano parts on bikes in the past, but the what I love is the grime and the texture in a bunch of the portraits that you got in black and white, and the way that when the weather's bad, you have, to borrow another phrase from Gadgen, you have frozen time in with these
Yeah,
people, and they are stuck in the rain with the you can see the raindrops coming down, you can see that kind of expression that only people get when they're out in the world experiencing
yeah,
the outdoors. And actually, it's that kind of weird feeling of I'm freezing cold, I'm covered in mud, and I feel great.
yeah, for
It's
sure.
kind of, you've got it there.
Yeah, those ones that you're talking about. I'm lucky that I've worked with Shimano long enough and have built a good relationship with them that they really trust me. So yeah, it's kind of a unique working relationship. And in that instance, I think the photos you're talking about were taken at the Unbound Gravel Race, which is the world's biggest gravel race every year, which takes part in a little town in Kansas. It's just I don't know. If you're really into cycling, you just even got to go experience that sometime because it's really unique. But yeah, you know, I was shooting on course, also kind of documenting bikes and things. We basically make a week full of content leading up to it. And every year, 2 or 3 years, I think I did the normal, just normal race coverage, and then, shooting with the long lens at the finish line, getting the people going across, yay, whatever I won. But I'm sitting there next to 20, 30 other people with the same lens taking the exact same photo, and I'm like, after a couple of years, I went to him and said, hey, I'll hire someone to take that shot. It's not that difficult to get, and I have a lot of great talented people here that I know I can hire. I'll pay them, hey, just get this one photo for me, or can I buy the rights to yours or whatever, right? I said, let me go past the finish line because this now it's a little different. The race has gotten more commercialized, so it's a bit more difficult to do this. But at the time, it's like the racers would just blow past, and the shorter race is 200 miles, the long race is 350 nonstop. So they everything they have, they get through the finish line, and then they would continue going 300 feet or further past 100 meters, past the finish line quite far, and they would collapse on the ground. And I saw them for a few years where there would be 10 seconds or so when there's no one around them, right? And then all of a sudden, of course, they get swarmed with people and cameras and everything. So I'm like, let me just go like a ways down and wait for that moment and let me capture those 5, 10 seconds while they're completely alone. And a lot of the athletes were comfortable with me. They knew me. So, me being very close to them it was like I didn't even exist almost, right? So what I did is I shot with a Leica monochrome. I think the ones you're talking about is the M10 or any of them are amazing. And the 50 Apo Summicron, all shot at f2. And I'm so in tune with that system that I don't actually look through the camera. It's completely just by feel and zone focused. So none of those photos are actually focused to the rangefinder or composed to the rangefinder. If it's a 28 or a 50 on a Leica M, I'm just very in tune with it, especially the Apo. So yeah, they're all just firing and just kind of zone focusing and adjusting that focus tab to kind of know where I am, judging my distance, because I want to stay with my eyes in contact with them so they know that I'm there. And yeah, it's I don't think any other camera or system could capture that level of detail and have that separation. Those are some of my favorite photos I've ever made. Yeah, they don't look real, honestly. They look like statues. It's really unique. And that we had crazy rain that day. Like you said, the mud was on the faces. And yeah, it's just again, I don't think any other camera system would quite capture the depth of that texture like a monochrome with that lens. So yeah, for me, that was a combination of the rendering of the lens as a paintbrush is beautiful with the camera, but also myself being very in tune with the system, feeling comfortable, to photograph in a very intense. Like I said, it's 5 to 10 seconds at most, and then all of a sudden, just everybody swarms, and then the riders start reacting and smiling. Oh yeah, and like that's not what I want, right? So I have a very short window to get it right. So that's really the only system that I felt, believe it or not, being manual was fast enough to capture those moments.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the system too. I think that's why I love it, and that's why I think so many people do. And there's more capability in zone focusing than people realize quite
For
often.
sure.
Like like I used some autofocus systems recently, having gone back, it was to do some promotional content for a store up here, and it was hard for a minute to kind of figure out how this thing sees and
Yeah.
to understand what it's going to pick. And you look at the images, sometimes you think, well, I can shoot from the hip, but why did it pick that? Why did it
Right.
not pick the face of the
Yeah.
human being? And like all this
Yeah.
cleverness in this technology is getting in the way. And because you're right, like the other thing about an M, especially if you're not covering your face with your camera, and they've just finished an event and they recognize you and they know who you are and all this, you can engage with a person, can't you? There's that kind of connection that you have with your subject as well. The tool isn't getting in the way, which is really nice.
Exactly. And it's not like it's a funny thing because if you have the camera up to your face, you're covering your face, maybe they don't recognize me. It wasn't like I'm interacting with them and saying, "Oh, how are you feeling?" or whatever. And there's no words exchanged, and they don't change their expressions, but it's more just like, "Oh, who's this guy in my face?" Right? They look, okay, it's him, and then they just go back to whatever the misery of is riding 200 miles, right? So yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, and then also the M is just not an intimidating thing. It's not some massive camera in your face, right? So I think it's just kind of like, yeah, for me, that event is one of my favorites to shoot every year just because I've kind of built the trust with the athletes and, they know that I'm just going to capture the moment, good or bad. And they may, if it's, they just got second place or whatever, like actually, I think my favorite photo of that series, I mean, imagine they rode 200 miles and he lost by a millisecond at the finish line. And in the moment, he's, totally, mad and angry to finish second. But then later, it's like, hey, I actually appreciate you really capturing that moment, right? And it gives me motivation for next year to try to go and win, right? So to remember that feeling and not repeat that, right? So yeah, it's interesting how a photo can have so many different purposes.
Plus, you're building a body of work over a period of time. Like that trust is so interesting because I think one of the nice things about these kind of conversations and bringing them to listeners is that not everyone who has a camera and enjoys photography gets to do a long term project like that, and
Yeah,
they don't all start that way. Sometimes someone contacts you, it's a gig, right? And it might be a gig you're interested in because you're a cyclist, but there's no guarantee you're going to go back again. I think what's really good about this project for you, it sounds like, is that over time they've come to really appreciate the imagery and maybe appreciate images beyond just what you need for a press release at the end of it. And there's a greater body over there, so you'll have years worth, I assume, at this point, that could go in. Could be all sorts of things.
for sure. And the cool thing is, those images were very well received. All the athletes love sharing them. They got millions of engagements, right? And so, yeah, I kind of just refined it. But honestly, I reached a point after doing that for 3 years that I'm like, okay, what's the next step of this, right? And again, thank you, Shimano, for being so supportive. They happen to be the biggest sponsor, or I don't know if they're the biggest, but they're like the title sponsor of the race. And I went to them and said, hey, like, this is great, but I feel like it's getting a bit repetitive. What if we went to the finish line and we set up a full studio? And when the athletes finish, they're corralled. The first thing they do is come into my portrait studio, and it's undecided yet, but the ultimate goal would maybe be to capture on 8x10 film, in a full portrait studio setting with like a nice Oliphant hand painted backdrop, like something you don't see normally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's this year is that's what's going to happen. So we did a light trial run last year just kind of see logistically how it would work, and yeah, this year uh, they're not doing any other promotional work other than my photo project, which is pretty amazing. So the whole week we're going to have a documentary film about what's going to go into capturing it, and the end product of photos. Hopefully they're good. And yeah, but it's going to be a big undertaking. But I'm really happy to have the support of Shimano and Lifetime that puts on the event to yeah, create some really unique portraits.
That's phenomenal. I love you're not afraid of committing to something long term as well. Like trying something, having the forethought. Like, right, we're going to try this last year. We're going to do it next year. Like having that kind of planning ahead. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this idea for like the last 5 years. The ultimate goal would be to shoot it on 8x10 wet plates, but that's a bit ambitious. So that may be the next step, but that would require probably 5 people helping me. So at this point, I'm going to have one assistant, someone doing video as well. Um, but so yeah, we'll start with film and then we'll kind of go from there. But wet plates, I think, would be absolutely just unbelievable. Nothing shows grit and texture like wet plates. And actually, photograph again. Thank you, Shimano. We were having a meeting and they saw one of my wooden cameras and they're asking, "Oh, what is that?" And I showed them some wet plates and they're like, "Hey, could you do that in an event?" And I'm like, "I mean, yeah, it would be a bit expensive and kind of a huge undertaking, but we could, in theory." So a few years ago, I photographed all the U.S. athletes before the cyclocross world championships. They were clean, so eventually, like I said, shooting at the finish line would be amazing. But everybody got really into it, dressed differently, and we rented an Airbnb that had a walk-in closet. I converted to a dark room. And yeah, we did 4x5 wet plates of all the U.S. athletes before the event. So that was pretty cool. So I think that's kind of what started them on this cool idea of doing different projects like that. And yeah, so I'm excited to do that in June, but also a little nervous at the same time. So quite a big undertaking. So I'll be testing a lot over the next 6 months and trying to dial in and eliminate as many variables as possible.
That's phenomenal because it's very temperature sensitive, isn't it, as well? And
The wet plates are, yeah. But so yeah, that's why this year I think doing it on film will be slightly easier. But there's also some challenges with that as well. But yeah, it's gonna be really cool. I think if I nail it correctly and do I want to do really tight headshots, really beautifully lit, and just capture all that. Just I don't know. I've never seen a person's eyes at the end of that race. Their eyes are just everything. They've just given everything, right? So just that I really want to focus on the eyes, and I think they really tell the story of what happened in their race. So that's my goal. We'll see if it works.
oh, that's so cool. And I can't. I mean, having seen the original, the earlier portraits on the website and stuff, like you're the guy to do it. Like I'm really
Thank you.
excited to see that stuff. I'll have to follow that stuff through because you've done some stuff recently. I saw you made a video about the monopan, for example.
Yeah,
That was a really lovely looking portrait session where you
thank
did
you.
a mix of outdoor and indoor. And it's wonderful that film's back. My I've recently picked up a Leica CM to be a kind of like in between before I inevitably cave and buy myself, I think, a film M of some sort.
Yeah,
But I've run some monopan through that. How have you found it getting? Because it's hard to get hold of for a
yeah,
start, but when you
yeah,
do,
for sure. I actually really loved it. It's I kind of have two ways that I shoot film. Either I take like a Tri-X or HP5 and I push it to 1600 or 3200. I make it super contrasty and grainy, or I want something that's really clean. Like a T-Max is something that I actually really love. And especially, yeah, I love putting really high performance lenses with film. So yeah, it just that's what I love about the M system in particular is I can put like a 50 Apo, a brand new high performance lens, shoot with the monopan on a film that's super, low grain and high resolution. And like you can see in those photos how you still have the tonality and you still have some of the grain structure of film, but they're shockingly clean for 35 millimeter. And then you can also take it the other way, right? So no, I love the monopan. Another thing I love is color filters, yellow, orange, blue, green, red filters. And the monopan is very it's gets affected by filters quite nicely. So yeah, using I think I did a red filter and a yellow on there, and I really like the look that I got of it. So I think I've shot like four rolls so far. But yeah, I would say if I'm able to shoot a 50 speed film, and I want to shoot black and white, it's going to be monopan probably every time if I'm able to get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just honestly, I really love the look of it, and I developed in the Agfa developer. Yeah, it's just yeah, really nice. Yeah,
I've only had one rollback so far, and the CM, like a lot of point and shoots, has this tendency to back focus when you use it fully automatically. And also, I think using a 20-year-old contrast-based autofocus system is not the same as using a modern contrast-based autofocus. And I don't use
yeah,
autofocus really very much. So I've got another couple of rolls I need to send in and get developed and see how I'm kind of adjusting that. But the
yeah.
CM has this nice option where you can dial in the focus manually as well
Mm,
for a point and
okay,
shoot, which is kind of weird.
that's cool.
It's made of titanium as well. If you ever get
Yeah,
a chance to get your hands on it, appeals to me because it's weird. Like
yeah,
if
for
there's
sure.
one thing that listeners know about me is like I like the M5 because it's
Me
weird,
too.
right? Like
I
I
do
just
as well.
yes, it's great, isn't it? What a cool
It's
weird
the best
thing.
meter ever put in an M,
Is it?
if it works, which is a
Well,
big if.
yes.
Yeah, because it's a spot meter. It's for me.
Yeah.
I love spot meters.
Mm.
That's if I'm, metering critically for a shoot, it's a spot meter every time. I have a Pentax digital spot meter, and I use a hybrid of like the zone system. I'm sure you've heard of Nick Carver on YouTube. He's a film photographer. So he has his own kind of hybrid system of metering, and he's got a course that he teaches on it. And it's absolutely incredible. So I learned the zone system, watched his videos, and kind of have a hybrid of them. But yeah, if you guys really want to learn how to meter film correctly, Nick Carver's course is the best I think out there. You cannot learn a better way to meter for film. It's really nice. So yeah, it's the spot meter is my favorite. It's nothing better, I think.
And away from film, you've mentioned recently that but still with monochrome. The monochrome M appears to be your favorite digital M.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I love I love the monochrome M, and I actually love the SL2S and 3S sensor for color. Those are my favorite Leica colors or my favorite digital color sensors ever. If they put that into an M, I would never need to buy another M again. Unfortunately, that will never happen. But yeah, the monochrome, I don't know. I love black and white for myself personally. But yeah, if I had to say color, it's a SL2S or 3S sensor is really nice as well, and the M9.
Well, so okay, so because you've got a Kodak hat on, so you're a kind of Kodak color because
Yeah,
that's the M9 was still tuned very much on Kodak film, wasn't it? As
correct.
kind of the
Yes,
reference, yeah.
exactly. So yeah, my favorite photo I've ever taken of all time is taken with an M9 with zero editing done to it. Literally like,
Oh,
well, I guess 1%. I raised the exposure like a tenth of a stop, but other than that, it was straight out of
yeah.
camera, and it just yeah, it's the M9 is special if used in the right scenarios, but it can be a bit limiting.
Yeah, got a great shutter sound though as well.
It does, yes.
Very, very special. I had the people who made, that documentary with Joel Meyerowitz that
Oh
came
yeah,
out, The Two Strangers. So Manon and Jacob, who made that film, were on the show, and I recorded with Joel and Maggie, his wife. And
yeah,
when
I
I was
saw that.
talking to Jacob and Manon beforehand about talking stuff, I did say to them, I was like, off mic, I was like, one question, I wanted to know about the shutter sound, because when I was watching the film, I was asking them whether or not they had added the shutter sounds afterwards, because sometimes they were photographing or filming at a distance. And the shutter sound to me sounded wrong. And they went, you're the only person to notice that but it's not wrong. It's just he was using an older camera in those shots, and so
Yeah.
the noise they used, they actually recorded his camera in the studio, got it up to the
Okay.
mic, and recorded the one he was using on the day to make sure. So it was because it sounded different to mine, but I was shooting an
Right.
M11.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. Why don't we try it and we'll see. I don't know how it will come through on a microphone, but I have an M9 and we can shoot the shutter and see if people can you hear that or no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very odd sound, but it's cool for sure. It's different.
But you also are a very brave man because you use like this is the lovely thing like Leica cameras sometimes to coin it to use a petapixel term. These are the dentist cameras, but you use yours, especially your special edition M9. Like I see that on Instagram all the time. You're just
Yeah.
carrying that thing around in the world, which is wonderful. How did
Yeah.
you get hold of that one? Was it because you weren't using Leicas at the time? I assume.
This one I just not too a lot of my Leicas have crazy stories how I got them, but this one not too much. Just a local store had it. It just kind of the price was right. It worked out, and I ended up with the Hermes, the M9, which I think is the most beautiful, tied maybe for the most beautiful M ever made, or the most beautiful digital camera. It just has so many unique features on it that even if you look at it, you may not notice right away. And the biggest one is that it has no hot shoe on the top here, so it has an incredibly clean top plate. And yeah, this was designed by Walter de Silva, which was the designer at Audi at the time, and he also designed the M Edition 60 and the Titanium M9, which all share some visual similarities. And it's funny because the M9 Titanium has a book that shows how it was made, and the Hermes styling actually was almost the M9 Titanium, but they'd saved it for the Hermes edition, which was kind of funny. Um, so yeah, it was kind of funny seeing some sketches, and I was like, that looks familiar. And but yeah, it's a really beautifully designed camera for sure.
It's the closest for me to a real life like the most beautiful sort of an unusual looking M
Yeah.
compared the only other one that I'd love to get my hands on is that one that Johnny Ive did
Yeah.
for the auction, right? Like cuz that's such a unique and weird take
Yes.
on the like taking all the edges off and the lens that complements it and the way
Yep.
that they really in Johnny Ive terms like he put curves on everything and just
Yeah.
made it very Apple esque
Yep.
for the time and the drilled front and everything. It's so cool with
Yeah.
him and his friend Mark. Is it Mark he does all the stuff with?
Yeah,
Can't remember.
yeah, I'm not sure, but no, that one is definitely too bad they only made one of them, right? I think. Didn't they call it like the one of one or whatever?
I believe
I
they did. Yeah,
I know there's
there
a
was a
few
prototype, wasn't
prototypes.
there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few prototypes. I know someone owns one of the lens prototypes that was pretty cool because that sold in an auction a
Wow.
couple of years ago for I think $300,000. Um,
Whoa.
but yeah, it's yeah, that's a really beautiful set as well.
Very cool. I like the M60. I always thought that was really a really cool take on the M,
Yep.
and I also think the stealth edition that they did
Yes.
with the glow in the dark numbers is
Yep.
super cool. Like for me, all the M11Ps and stuff like should have glow in the dark numbers. I think that's rad.
Yeah, for sure. I know it doesn't really. Yeah, I had the Stealth Edition. It's really cool, and the lume does glow very brightly,
Mm.
actually. And a friend of
Yeah,
mine has it now. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a fun party trick for sure.
but that's the great thing about a lot of these cameras. I feel like that's where a lot of brands don't have the whimsy. Right, there's not as much fun,
Yeah,
and you know, you spend some time with folks at Leica and like people like Stefan Daniel, and they say like, you say why did they do it, and they went well because we could. You know, and I
yeah,
love that. That's just
for
because they
sure.
could. I wish more companies did stuff just because they could.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think Leica is in a unique position where they're really the only brand that can do that, and I think they do it very well most of the time. So yeah, it's but I don't know if this is true or not. I was told that the people that were really doing all the special editions, kind of that team has changed, and that's why
Mm,
after the M10, you don't really see as many special editions because they're really trying to
right.
protect the brand of the M, which I do
Mm,
understand. But I wish we would see a little more than we see now because really there's not too many fun kind of special editions coming out, and yeah, for me, I really enjoy that aspect of it. So hopefully in the future we'll see more than just safaris and reporters, which I love, but yeah, I would like to see more.
yeah. There's more colours than just green. I think is what we need
Exactly.
to remind them.
Yes.
Green,
Although I
silver, and
do love
black.
green. That's my favorite color, so I can't complain too much.
Sure. Yeah. Mine's orange. That's never coming. Like
Yeah,
I'm never getting an orange M. It's not even Apple chose the wrong orange. The cowards. They
on the
sort
phone.
of yeah, they chickened out. It's too close to gold. Like
Okay.
it leans towards brown. If you put it next to sound like an old man shouting at windmills, but if you put it next to the iMac, the orange iMac, that's the
Yeah,
correct orange. They already
gotcha.
make the correct orange. Like why not just use that orange? It's right there. And instead,
Probably.
they just
Yeah. I'm guessing they wanted to match Hermes orange. That's why, because that's
yeah.
known as a high end color, and I feel like it
Oh yeah.
leans more towards that, right? So maybe
Yes.
that's why. Who knows?
I think that's the challenge though with a bunch of these design like very high end companies like places like Apple because working at Apple must be like working at the Death Star, right? Like
Yeah,
it's just so huge now. There's so many people, and also a bunch of them have been there a really long time. They've done really well for themselves, and they drive to work in their Ferrari and they talk about their Hasselblads or whatever. And it's a very different. They're
yeah,
dealing in a world of a different palette to the one
yep,
that kind of a lot of us are exposed to,
for sure.
and so there's a method to it, but just their life experience is really different. So
Yeah,
they're
maybe.
like you say, they're looking at an elevated pastel palette that's a couple of years before that comes down to the high street,
Yeah, for sure,
But
definitely.
speaking of stay away from the high street, your leatherworking, you mentioned a real love of craftsmanship and well-made things. Were you brought up around crafting and making stuff out of leather? Because your bags and straps look amazing.
Thank you. Not around leather specifically, but I just I always just enjoyed making things from a young age. My first job was in a welding shop, making scrolls for the top of fences, like plasma cutting when I was like 15 years old. So I don't know. Yeah, it was just kind of, I've just always done that. But believe it or not, I actually started leatherworking because I bought my first Leica and I wanted a strap for it. And at the time, didn't realize what nice leather things cost. And a combination of that and just kind of like it always had kind of looked fun to me. Uh, yeah, I was like, you know what? Let me look around, see if I can find leather supply or store. And there was actually one quite close to me. So I went there, bought leather, some crappy tools, and made some really horrible stuff for a while. And that was like over 10 years ago now. And yeah, it's kind of turned into this whole thing, but it's definitely a passion project for me. And yeah, I kind of reached a point where I was self-taught, kind of plateaued, couldn't really figure out things and wanted to take it to the next level. So I reached out actually to someone on Instagram that I think is the greatest leather worker of all time. And I said, hey, name any price. I want to come make a bag with you. And he was trained by an Hermes craftsman and then also had hired away one of the top craftsmen from Hermes to come work for him. And yeah, I went and did an apprenticeship multiple times. I've actually traveled to Zurich in Switzerland and trained with them. So I'm formally trained in all traditional French style leatherworking, hand stitching, kind of everything they teach in the Hermes school. And yeah, that's it's kind of gone crazy since then, about 5 years ago. But yeah, it's I get bored if I make the same thing over and over. So everything that I do is very bespoke, one of a kind. That the bags are never recreated twice. And yeah, it's all about delivering something very unique and special beyond the bag. It's kind of a whole experience. And yeah, I love for my customers to be as involved as possible um, and kind of understand the process. And I've had people fly from all around the world to come visit my atelier in the shop. And yeah, if they want to learn how to hand stitch, edge paint, learn about the materials, like the more they want to be involved, the better. So yeah, it's kind of turned into this crazy passion project. And but for me, it's about the people that I meet. So my customers are some of the most interesting people in the world. They're very yeah, interesting people that you just be happy to be around and absorb information and learn from. And yeah, so that's been my favorite part about it for sure.
I feel like the most interesting people in the world, like you, really struggle to fill the box in where it says what's your job.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're filling in a form, because we've covered production, cycling, and like manufacturing bespoke goods in the whole thing. How do you think of yourself? Are you a creative person? Are you a business person? Are you like can you put it in a box?
Uh, to be honest with you, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but like for example, like if you told me to draw something, I mean, I'd be
Hmm.
lucky to draw a stick figure, believe it or not. Like I that side of things is very difficult for me. Creatively in photography, I struggle the most with that. But I think that's what keeps it fun for me. Obviously, as people can probably tell, the technical side of things comes very easy for me, but the creative side of things is quite difficult. So I think that's what pushes me to try to get better because I would get bored otherwise if I don't feel like, every bag that I make or every photo that I make can be better than the last one, right? So I think although I feel like I struggle with that aspect of it the most, I feel like yeah, that's what drives me to continue to try to get better.
That makes a lot of sense. I think we need things that pull us along. I think your point about not wanting to make the same thing twice because that variety is important to you. I think it means something if you get too comfortable. I guess that's probably why you keep looking for ways to change the annual cycling project, like to keep
Yeah,
that
yeah, for sure.
different, keep that fresh.
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep it fresh. I think that's I don't want to get bored and get complacent and just get comfortable doing the same thing over and over.
I'll be honest, Kevin, I don't know you well, but I don't think you're getting bored anytime soon. I don't
Yeah,
feel like you've got enough going on.
I have too much going on, and I've been working on
Mm,
reducing the amount of things that I have going
yes.
on so that I can focus more energy on the things that I really love. So, yeah, that's something as a creative person, I think you're always, struggle with yourself is don't take on too much.
Yeah.
Try to have a little bit of focus. So that's what I've been working on the last like 4 to 5 years, I would say, is kind of reducing the amount that I take on, but not always doing a good job at that.
Well, yeah, if you get a reputation for executing, that's the problem because people
Yeah.
phone you up and they go, there's a really good book about Edwin Land, the founder of Polaroid.
Okay.
And he, for some of his top people, what he did was, and this is bearing in mind, this is like in the 50s and 60s or whatever, he had a phone line installed in people's houses that was a direct line. He could pick up a phone and just dial them at home.
Cool.
And one of the scientists who worked for him in the book describes to the author of the book how she would be with her family and with her kids, and it'd be the evening, and the phone would ring, and it's the Edwin Land phone, and you're in the middle of something and you're cooking dinner or you're looking after whatever, and you know this is like family time and you've worked a
Yeah.
lot and whatever. But the problem was, if you pick up that phone, it was always interesting.
Yeah.
It was always something mad that he had thought of, and there was always, and I just feel like I'm talking to someone for whom that is a common problem too. The phone rings, you're like,
Yes.
this is always going to become something I want to do. It's just whether I should.
Yeah, you could not have put that any better. That is exactly how you describe it. Because my phone rings with some absolutely bizarre opportunities, and it's hard to say no to some of them for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to embrace your inner David Lynch. Like sometimes you got to be bored, man.
exactly. For sure, for sure.
Take a minute out. So are you looking end of the year, bit of a slowdown for Thanksgiving, cruise into Christmas, and then come out fighting, swinging in January, or?
Yeah, this is my slow season for travel. I travel a lot during the year for shoots and various reasons, but a lot of travel for work. But yeah, right around end of October, November, I slow down for about 2 months and then it ramps up again. But what I'm doing now is a ton of product photography for catalogs for
Mm.
the summer 2026 season. So right now it's a ton of video, a lot of product photography, and a lot of leather working. I'm trying to get caught up on bags. Because although I don't mind having a bit of a wait, it's gotten a bit too excessive for my liking. So yeah, it's I would like to try to catch up a little bit on that. And yeah, but it's again, it's a passion project, so I work on it as much as I'm able to. And but yeah, it's usually a week or two out of the month that I dedicate my time to leatherworking, and about 3 weeks, 2 weeks to photography, depending how that kind of swings percentage wise. But yeah, it's nice. It keeps you kind of get to the end of that time that you've worked on one, and then you're ready to get back to the other. And but yeah, the leatherworking, the bag, specifically working on a bag, has become so complex in what I make that unless I can dedicate 3 whole days, but really now it's kind of, if I can't dedicate 5 uninterrupted days to working on a bag, I won't even start because I don't want to make a mistake. So yeah, it's they become quite mentally and labor intensive.
One of the things when I was sort of doing prep and research for this conversation, one of the things I was thinking about was that a lot of the times, the thing that attracts people to photography is an interest in people. But you have this kind of really interesting combination where I think there is a real Like, you want to do a great job for people. You just said it there. I don't want to start it unless I can start it and see it through and do it properly. And I want to do a really good product. It's about committing to making something for someone else. But you have
Yes.
this wonderful, interesting side, which is you're interested in how the sausage gets made as well. And I think what's fun about your work is that you don't accidentally drive a Koenigsegg, for example. Like, that's not the hypercar that's on everyone's wall. Like,
Yeah.
if you do like a Prices or Family Fortunes, name a
Right.
hypercar, that's not the name that
Exactly.
comes top. It's not even top 10, which is
Yeah.
why I was so interested to talk to you, because like that's I had, for example, I once had a Ducati 749, which is the
Okay.
Ducati everybody hates, because the front was designed by Philip Stark and it's awesome, and it's got little eyes, sort of like round lights above each
Yeah.
other. It's cool. It's the best one. It's like the M5, right? Sometimes you
Right.
choose weird stuff. But I think that for you, it seems like, are you interested in the the people behind the making, like how something was made and
Oh
why it
yeah.
came to be? You know, like it's almost like you want to say to someone, you don't understand how clever this is. You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm attracted to unique kind of one of a kind things where every detail matters. That's kind of like, um, yeah, I think when I see someone go to that level of insanity and attention to detail, that's what attracts me to it. So in the car world, it's like Singer restoring Porsches, and then Koenigsegg and Pagani both have their own different ways that they do things. But I definitely take a lot of inspiration from those companies and the unique experience that they provide beyond just the final product itself, right? So I think that's in anything that I'm doing, photography or leatherworking, it's yeah, it's all about either creating a unique experience or even just whether it's not a paid thing or whatever. Like if I can just do life experiences that I can do cool stuff together with someone, you never know where that will lead to. And yeah, I've had a lot of things that start out as something you would never expect. Like, for example, photographing a car collection, that was just to photograph the cars was a dream. And then now that this person has become one of my best friends, and now we go for drives, weekly, and some of the craziest cars in the world that, I can't even say it would be a dream come true because I never thought it would happen, right? So it's yeah, it's incredible how a small thing like a photograph can lead to something like that.
I like to say on the show, and I often repeat myself because any episode can be someone's first episode, but the nice thing about photography is that if you are sitting somewhere reading a book, or you're looking at something, or whatever, you're doing something, but you're saying to the world, don't interrupt or leave me alone. But a camera, because it requires you to be there, like Bill Brown said on an episode recently, photography is the only art form where you had to be there. You
Yes.
couldn't get the image any other way. You can't outsource the image, and it still be your image. Like, it's someone else's image at that point. But someone had to physically go to the place to be at the finish line to do whatever. And
Yep.
so I feel like that leads us. It's great because it means that we get to connect with people, right? We
For
get to
sure.
talk to folks, and we
Absolutely.
get to see,
Yes.
like you're saying to people, I'm doing something, but I'm interested in the world, so come and have a chat. And
Right.
then for me with the camera, I find people walk up and they have a history with photography or image
Yeah.
making or whatever. They come over. Like, does that happen to you a lot? I assume as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everything from being on the street, people coming up to me, talking to me about the camera or whatever, but even specifically in the world of Leica, um, some cameras I purchased from people have led to friendships and meeting people that are just, I don't know, so bizarre. One time I saw these cameras on eBay, and then I noticed, I think that maybe it was the same person selling something on Craigslist. I reached out to him, and he happened to be somewhat local. So he's like, "Yeah, come over to my studio." I drive up to LA. And it's one of those moments where you walk in somewhere and you just look around and you go, "Who the hell is this person?" You know what I mean? It was just like, trying to keep her cool. You're just like, wow, it was the most beautiful studio I've ever seen in my life. Just piano gloss white floors, exposed wood roofs, and it was like a fully set up as an artist gallery. And then in the back was his workshop where he did all his mixed media paintings. And it turned out he's like quite a world famous artist. And I had no idea. And yeah, he's always been into photography. He's been wanting to integrate more of that into his artwork, and he discovered Leica. And yeah, I mean, we just started talking, and then it was like, I don't know, 4 hours in, and I'm like, holy crap, I guess I should pay you for this camera, right? And he's like, oh, you want to get lunch? And we hung out for the whole day, and now we've become friends. And yeah, I I guess that could happen with another brand, but I would say it's a lot more likely to happen with a Leica. So that's something that, you know, the Leica brand gets a lot of hate, and there can be some bad stuff about it out there. But I would say I brought a ton of people into the Leica community that had that kind of stereotype, baked into their head. But once they
Mm.
hang around the true community of photographers that use their equipment as a tool to make beautiful photographs, and also how inviting they can be, um, every single person has gotten completely obsessed, bought multiple Leicas, and they're fully engulfed in the community now. So for me, the cameras are amazing, but the community is the best part about Leica.
I was in Wetzlar for that event, and I was blown away by how supportive everybody was. Like everybody I met, like people like Gadget and Brandon, who don't even really know me, Brandon Ruffin, recommending me to other people.
Yeah,
Just going, oh yeah. And so when you go up and talk to people, and they go, oh yeah, yeah, no, they mentioned that. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. And you're like, what is going on? Like everybody just falling over themselves. But I think it's one of those rare cases where it's a group of people who understand that without the quality of the work and without attracting the right kinds of people to it, then it's all meaningless. They understand, don't they? I think that they've got
exactly.
they are the custodians of this thing, and they're
A
like,
hundred percent. Yes.
don't break it, right? Like
Yes. Yeah,
keep
and
it
I mean,
forward.
yeah, it's I don't, no other brand has kind of the how would I put it? They don't have the amount of cameras that people are obsessed with,
True.
collectability wise, is a whole nother world. So for me, it's like
Yeah.
I love my Leicas for the optics, for the quality, right? All that we talked about. But for me, which is different than a lot of people out there, I also love to collect, rare kind of historical vintage pieces as well as new ones. But for me, it's a completely separate part of Leica, and I think the collecting and the special editions get a lot of hate for things. But what I'll say is that if Leica is able to produce a special edition of a certain amount of cameras that maybe for a lot of us out of our price range, but there's people that buy them, and that allows them to generate money to create, new and innovative products. I want people to really think about that before they go down the hating train of special editions, because just because something's not for you doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist, right? So I think that's yeah, everybody in the online photography world needs to take a little bit of a chill pill on hating on everything, because just because it's not for you doesn't mean it's not going to be a perfect tool for someone else, right? No matter what it is. But yeah, I love the collecting side of things. I'm very lucky to have some very special pieces, and yeah, it's just I've gotten completely obsessed with the history of mainly M's, and have become somewhat of a knowledgeable historian, kind of whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I'm lucky to kind of have over many years kind of created my dream collection of cameras. And actually, through my YouTube channel, uh, people started reaching out, hey, what do you think about this? And I started, kind of advising, and now to the point where I provide a camera concierge service for people, where I travel all around the world sourcing them some of the most rare cameras on Earth. Um, so yeah, in the last couple of years, I've slowly been doing more of that, and I have a few clients that have again become really good friends, and have just we've created some of the most amazing collections. And the coolest thing about all of these people is that they're totally cool with me taking the cameras, using them, photographing with them, putting film through it, sharing it with the audience. Um, which a lot of these things get, put away in a safe somewhere and never see the light of day, which I'm not a huge fan of. But
Yeah.
yeah, so for me, my YouTube channel, and kind of like I said, sourcing the cameras for people, providing the information, a lot of it is I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I did, get ripped off, buy counterfeits, things like that. So yeah, the vintage Leica game could be very tricky to get started in. So for me, when I got started in it, again, there was not a lot of info. So I started making videos just to try to, educate people. I know my videos are not going to appeal to a huge audience, but it's okay. I'm just making videos about stuff that I like, and if I can help one person out there, that's all I care about.
But then also we know that's that's how great stuff gets made. It's because people just made it because they wanted to, and they weren't chasing a trend or like you don't open your videos with like this hit song from K-pop Demon Hunters just so it gets likes. Like that's
Yeah.
that's you know
Yeah.
don't do that.
I've learned that if you do something to a high level that you really love, there's other people out there that will love the same thing almost always. So whether it's my bags or the cameras that I collect, it's I don't buy anything that I don't love. So yeah, I get offered a lot of special stuff, but if it's not something that's, you know, dear to my heart or something that I really love, it's not, I don't just buy to collect, I buy because I love and because I also want to use them, so.
You're like a camera Indiana Jones. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah, I know it's insane, and that allows me to get my hands on some cameras that are way out of my budget range. And yeah, I mean, original MPs and Swedish military cameras, and sometimes I'm at a concert shooting. I have three of these cameras around me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like worth three times the cost of my house.
Yeah.
It's a
This is
bit
why I messaged you
surreal.
the other day on Instagram, right? I was like, please put an air tag in that bag.
Yeah,
Something, or multiple air tags.
that was a transport case when I was taking a bunch
Yeah,
of
yeah.
cameras to educate someone about different intricacies of things. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun for sure.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, speaking of fun, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I've been
Of
really
course.
excited to talk to you for a while,
Yeah,
and it's one of those. It's exactly the kind of conversation I wanted to have with a fellow
definitely.
like that, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
think we share that kind of thing of it's confirmation bias is a lovely thing to just sit and wallow in for a bit, right? Of like two
For
people
sure.
who see the world in a very similar way, but
And a
it
good
makes
thing
for a
we
fun
didn't
chat.
talk. Yeah, we didn't talk too much about the Leicas. I hope people didn't get too bored of that. But yeah, if you ever want to do one where we dive specifically into a certain type of cameras or lenses or things like that,
Mm.
we could do that as well. So anytime, just let me know.
Oh, brilliant. No, I'd love to. I get made fun of for being a Leica and Polaroid podcast, but unfortunately, as you were saying earlier, the Leica folks are just really up for it in a
Yeah,
way that there is an excitement and a passion. And similarly on the Polaroid side, like Ben Fratnali's been on talking about Polaroid. And the thing that you and I just did talking about Leica, he described, he's like, I'm like an atomic bomb of information going off
for
in a
sure.
conversation. And you
That's
just,
amazing.
and that's it. Yeah. But it's
Yeah,
what happens when you get excited people going, and then there's this one and that one. And of course there's this and
well,
it just, yeah,
yeah,
it's brilliant.
that's it goes back to that saying, if you do anything that you love, the passion will come through. And if you try to talk about stuff that you didn't like, then it wouldn't be genuine, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
you just got to talk about the things that you love and are knowledgeable about, and the rest will fall into place.
Yes. Well, thank you. I really, really enjoyed this. And I will say until next time. But for people listening who maybe don't know your stuff, where can they find it and get a bit more Kevin?
Yeah, it's Kevin Fickling on YouTube, on Instagram. My leatherworking Instagram. I don't have a website. I keep it very low key. It's called Decrypto. And that's on Instagram. So you can find me there. But yeah, everything else just by my name, Kevin Fickling. And yeah, send me messages. Hope to hear from people. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. It's a joy. You have a wonderful rest of the day, my friend.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Well, wasn't that an absolute joy? Kevin's brilliant, isn't he? Lovely company. If you enjoyed that, don't forget that you can like and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. So that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, all of the good places. Please do feel free to leave us a review. Hit us up with those lovely 5 stars. That will help people to find us in time as well. There is a weekly newsletter available at primelensespodcast.com. You can sign up to that, and there's a link to it in the show notes. And lastly, I'll say merch is coming. There's going to be a store on the website, and you can support the show directly by going over to Patreon as well. That is also linked in the show notes, and people who support the show, my gosh, I really appreciate it. We've had a little flurry of new people coming in recently. It's fantastic. So please do feel free to get stuck in and get involved, and come and find me on socials. Have a chat. Hearing from listeners and talking to you all is absolutely the best bit. Right, well, I think that'll do for now. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.